All right, Tim, take it away.
All right, so this is the cloud storage presentation by the Peterborough Town Library. Generally, what we'll do is this class will be rather straightforward and just talk about the benefits of using cloud storage, how you can use cloud storage, and all the different, some of the different options for cloud storage. Generally, what will happen is after this class is done or during this class, people will request a specific cloud storage provider to be gone over in depth. And that's kind of where we'll talk about the extensions for browsers, how to download it onto your computer, how to use it online, and how all those things work together. As always, if you have any questions during the class, feel free to let Mary know. You can either type in the chat window if you're remote, or there will be predetermined times where we'll stop and ask for questions. And then at the end, there will be a generic wrap up, any questions you have, period. Generally, these classes, I'll talk for anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes. And then I have booked an hour and a half for this. So don't feel like you're keeping me, but also don't feel like you have to stay to the end if you don't have any questions. Right. So the first thing to go over, I suppose, is what is cloud storage? Cloud storage is essentially a folder or folders on your computer that are also backed up online. And by backed up, what we mean is it's available online and it is hosted on various servers all across the world in order to keep your data from, protect you from data loss, and also make it really convenient. If you have multiple computers, this will allow you to have a single location on all of your computers where all of your different documents and pictures and videos will be synced between all of your devices. This also allows you to access files that normally you would have only been able to access when you're at home. It will allow you to either log into a computer, for example, at the library, log into your cloud storage online and view and edit those files. It will also allow you to use your phone and view or edit those files as needed. So some of the questions you should probably ask yourself whenever you're trying to determine what sort of cloud storage you want is what type of computer do you have? Where do you work? Do you travel? Do you have internet? How old is your computer? And do you want hot or cold storage? So we'll go over these kind of naturally as we progress, but the one I do want to mention is hot or cold. So hot storage, you can think of as always available. That means it's very quick to access, and it's very easy for you to utilize and open those files, edit those files, that sort of thing. Cold storage is generally cheaper, and it will allow you to take, for example, say, hey, this folder on my computer, I want it to be backed up, but I don't really want to use it that often. So it's going to take longer for you to access those files online, but it's kind of a way to make sure that your files are being backed up without paying the premium of having them always accessible. So the next question a lot of people ask is, where are these documents saved? Or where should you save documents? So the first place where your documents, if you're using cloud storage, the first place where they will be accessible is on your computer. You open up your computer, you go to your file browser or Finder, and you'll be able to access your documents and edit them. Once you have finished editing your documents, the cloud storage will then take the edit, put it back up in the cloud so it's backed up. You can also save your documents on removable media. So these are things like USB sticks or portable hard drives. And this would kind of give you the advantage of not needing an internet connection in order to access your data, and also will allow you to easily move your data from one place to another without using an internet connection. The next place is in the cloud. That's kind of what the main gist of this topic is. cloud storage. The next option is a NAS device, and that stands for Networked Attached Storage. So generally these are used in businesses, but you can also use them at home. So one of the home uses for a NAS is if you have multiple computers at home, you can have one NAS connected to the network, which will allow all of the different computers to have access to that device. This is also where some people will set their TV up to be able to access movies from that they own, regardless of a streaming service. You can have copies of movies on a hard drive, and a NAS will allow your TV to look at that and play movies without needing an internet connection. The last one is hard copy. So that's kind of printing it out. So you have a hard copy of your Word document or your Excel spreadsheet or your picture. When you're saving files or you're trying to back up files, some people will run into the issue of they're backing it up everywhere, which is good because it means the file is backed up everywhere and you're not going to lose the file. One of the issues that people can run into, though, is if they have multiple copies of a file, sometimes they will edit copy A one day, and then they'll edit copy B a subsequent day, not realizing that now they have two versions of that document instead of just one. So it is an issue if you save things in various locations that aren't syncing, where you may incorrectly edit a document when you meant to edit a different document, even though they have the same name. But the positives are, if you have multiple locations, the positives are that you're less likely to lose the document. The way I think about this is if you have your computer at your house and you have a backup device, so like a hard drive, Apple's very good with their Time Machine backup device. If you have that and your house burns down, really unfortunate series of events would have to occur for that to happen, but your computer and your backup device are in your house. So now both of them are gone, so you've lost your data. So that's why cloud storage is really nice, because no matter what happens, your documents will still be accessible, even if you lose the physical devices that you had the data backed up on. What's really important when utilizing cloud storage or any sort of backup is you have to have a plan and you have to organize your documents. It does you no good to have all of your documents backed up if you completely forget where they are. A lot of online cloud storage applications will have a whole bunch of search functionality, and that's generally what I use. But just to be safe, it's very convenient and very nice to have very specific file naming conventions. So for example, for me, I like to, if I'm naming a file or a folder, I like to start with the date. That allows me to quickly figure out when something was created. And in my head, I can generally remember when something was, set aside or when something was created. This is extremely obvious for things like taxes or bills. It's very easy to find the bill or the tax information that you're looking for if the date is in the title, as opposed to opening up the file and then viewing it. Another thing that's kind of important is for a lot of services, especially if the file is located on the computer, the max path length for a Windows computer is 260 characters. That means that if a folder has a title that is 10 characters long, a file in that folder has if you just use a full sentence to describe the file, you may make that file too long for them to be easily found. So this generally will have an issue if you have multiple folders within folders, because as you go down that tree, you're adding up those characters and then Windows will run into an issue. The other thing to do is if you're no longer using a file or you no longer want to use a file, I generally have a folder that's just called archive that I just dump all of that information into. I like dumping that stuff because generally with cloud storage, you have more space than you need. But if you're running into space requirements or space limitations, it is okay to delete stuff. So that's what the cull little tidbit is for there. You want to make sure that you no longer have kind of irrelevant data in your cloud storage, because one, it takes up space, but two, it can cause confusion. Before we go on to this section, which is where we go over different options available, does anyone have any questions about what we just talked about?
Any questions? Not in the classroom. Anybody else from Zooming have a question? Okay.
Perfect. I love that word, zooming. Makes it seem like such a active engagement. All right, so cloud storage. There are hundreds and hundreds of options. I'm sure some of you have heard of cloud storage options that we're not going to talk about. I have expanded this into 2 full pages. So remember that at the end of this, you're going to get a link to both the audio visual recording of this, and you will also be given a link to the slides themselves. One of the important things about the link to the slides is the next time we do this class, I will use the same link. So even if you don't use this class, if you don't look at this class next year and you want the updated information, feel free to use the link, and all of this information will be updated for your pleasure. All right, so the first one we'll talk about is Google Drive. This one is produced by Google. Some of the things that are really good about this one is it does give you 15 gigabytes for free. So that means if you have a Google account, so for example, if you use Gmail, you'll have 15 gigabytes free for storage. This does include pictures, this does include documents, videos, anything you want to put on it. And then if you need more space, 100 gigabytes is $199 a month, and 2 terabytes is $999 a month. You'll notice that a lot of these prices are very, very similar, if not exact, to each other. So really, it comes down to which one do you prefer more, which one gives you the best kind of user experience, and what additional things do you get with the cloud storage. It's not really, you don't really need to worry about which one is best price-wise, because they're all very, very similar. The other benefit of Google is they do have the Google document editor, they have Google Sheets, they have a light picture editor. So basically Google is trying to build an infrastructure for you where you don't actually need to use your computer in order to edit a document. You can just do it right within the cloud. The other thing you may notice on this slide is it says Files on Demand to the right. What Files on Demand is, and it's the terminology that's borrowed from Microsoft, but basically you can choose to have files available on your computer, and you can choose to have files just available online within the same folder. So basically this is incredibly useful if you have a laptop or a desktop that has, for example, 500 gigabytes of space on its hard drive, but you have 2 terabytes of cloud storage. What this means is you can fully utilize that 2 terabytes of cloud storage, and you don't have to completely fill up your computer. You can tell your computer what files to download for use and what files to not download for use. One of the really big benefits of Files on Demand, though, is you will still see the file. So the file won't be on your computer, won't be taking up space, but you'll have, you know, a 10 byte kind of link that you can see the file name, you can see the file type, and if you try and open it, Google will then download that file onto your computer for you. So the reason why that's nice, if I didn't say it already, is basically you can have hundreds of gigabytes of files in the cloud, and you don't have to have all of them on your computer. So you can save space in that way. The next one is Dropbox. As you can see, it's incredibly similar. You can start with 2 gigabytes free. You can do various tasks to get up to 16 gigabytes free. And then you can buy 2 terabytes for $9.99 a month. A lot of these will have cheaper options if you choose to buy them yearly, make an annual subscription. Generally, they'll give you 2 months free. So generally, if a service is $9.99 a month, it will then be $100 for 12 months. So you can save 2 months of cost that way. Dropbox is kind of one of the original cloud storage providers. And one of its benefits is it has, in my opinion, the best versioning of anything. So I believe it will keep 100 versions of every file. So basically, if you have a file and you edit it, and then you realize 7 months later, hey, I want to go back, you'll be able to go through the version history and go backwards and redo the whole, and kind of go back to whatever version you want. One of the benefits of this, and one of the things they tout, is if your file or if your account gets hacked and people delete everything, you're able to basically say, hey, go back to this point in time for all of my files and bring them all back. iCloud Plus, this is what Apple renamed iCloud. It also has files on demand, but one thing people will notice is there's no way to kind of do that yourself. You can't say, hey, I don't want this folder to be downloaded on my computer. Apple kind of has, its own secret sauce where it will kind of do that for you. So if you're running out of space on your phone for pictures, it will then put more of those pictures on the cloud drive only. And likewise, and then it will allow you to open that picture from the thumbnail. It will then re-download it, and then you'll have access to it again. Whereas Google Drive and Dropbox kind of will allow you to say, hey, everything in this folder, I don't want it to be accessed on my device. Right. Kind of the real benefit of iCloud Plus, besides kind of its automatic space, like growing and shrinking, is 1, the price is in line with everything else, and 2, if you have purely Apple devices, it's the best integrated with your Apple computers and iPhones and iPads. It doesn't really have any limitations to how many devices it can be on. And basically, it allows you to easily share your files, folders, anything like that, especially easily to other people who use iCloud. Kind of the negatives with iCloud is if you primarily use Windows or Android or anything of that nature, while technically it will work, you're not going to have a very good experience. So basically only look at iCloud if you're a primarily Apple user or Apple household. The next one is kind of the opposite to iCloud, and that's OneDrive, because it's produced by Microsoft. As you can see, once again, OneDrive gives 15 gigabytes free. It gives 1 terabyte for $6.99 a month, or it'll give you 6 terabytes for 6 people for $9.99 a month. Basically, that's their family plan. So the real reason to get OneDrive is, 1, it's backed by Microsoft, absolutely massive company, and they kind of are the ones to originate the good utilization of files on demand. But also you get Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. you get all of those programs with that $6.99 a month. So if you're ever thinking to yourself, hey, I hate that Microsoft's pricing model is now a monthly subscription for their stuff, while yes, that's inconvenient, if you were looking for cloud storage and you also want Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office applications in general, you essentially get one or the other for free, depending on how you look at it, which is why why OneDrive is a pretty darn good deal, especially if you want to use the Office suite. With the 6 terabytes a month, 6 terabytes for 6 people, what that means is it's a family plan. And with the family plan, those other 6 people will also get the Office suite. So especially if you have a household with multiple family members, that $9.99 a month for 6 people starts to look like a very attractive offer. And in case it wasn't clear, I use all of these pretty extensively. So if you have any questions about which one do I prefer for an individual thing, we'll go over that after the next slide. And then this slide is additional options that I don't have as much experience with, but are unique in different ways. So the first one is Mega. I don't know if you guys remember Kim.com, but he was basically a modern day pirate in terms of cloud and storing things online, where people would use his services to store illegal files or files that they had illegally obtained. And the real reason for people to use Mega is, one, its pricing is in line with all the others, but it has a zero knowledge system. What that means is the cloud provider has absolutely no clue what files you have stored in the cloud. This doesn't mean like that you should choose this if you're doing things illegal and you shouldn't choose it if you're not. What this means is if a company in the US were to get a order from a police, from the police or from a judge or from the FBI to have access to your data, a company like Mega could not actually give over your data because it doesn't have it. It doesn't know what it is. So it's kind of an additional layer of security. I always sound like a conspiracy theorist, but but don't think of this as I should choose this if I'm doing something illegal. Think of this as I should choose this if I want cloud storage and I also want no one else to have access to my data. The next one is Idrive. The main limitation with Idrive is it has no files on demand. If you remember when we talked about that earlier, this means that if you have 5 terabytes of Idrive space and your computer has a 1 terabyte hard drive, congratulations, you can only use 1 terabyte of your 5 terabytes in Idrive easily. It will allow you to have things saved only online, but then you run into the issue of, did I put that only online or is it on my computer as well? And it can get confusing, but it does offer 5 terabytes for $59 per year, which is by far the cheapest option for that amount of space from any of these providers. Pcloud is another. It also offers zero knowledge, just like Mega, and it is based in Switzerland. Mega is based in New Zealand, in case you care about the nationality of your cloud storage. And with Pcloud, you get 10 gigabytes free. You can get 2 terabytes for $9.99 a year, which is very in line with all the other options. But they are the thing that makes them kind of unique is they offer 2 terabytes for $350 for life. So you pay $350 and you get 2 terabytes of storage and you never have to pay them another cent. The way to think about this is after 3.5 years, you've essentially, it's all positive from there. So after 3.5 years, you're done paying, and all the other services you would have to continually pay. And in my opinion, 2 terabytes is enough for the normal person, and I really can't see that number increasing a crazy amount. So that's a pretty good deal if you have that amount of cash to just outlay and you don't want to think about paying a monthly subscription ever for cloud storage. The next option is Sync. One of the unique things about Sync is it is the only one on here besides Google Drive to have the ability for you to get an unlimited amount of storage. I don't have that one listed here just because I don't think most people who are going to be watching this class need unlimited storage, but it is notable that it does give you that option. It does have the limitation of no files on demand. That means you can have a folder set to either be on your computer and in the cloud or just in the cloud, and then you can't access it on your computer. For 2 terabytes of storage, it is $8 a month, so slightly undercutting the average of $10 a month. The last notable one to talk about, and a lot of people forget about this one, is Amazon Prime. I don't know how many of you have an Amazon Prime membership. I happen to have an Amazon Prime membership, and if you have that, it gives you unlimited photos. So if you have Amazon Prime anyway, you can store an unlimited amount of photos on Amazon Prime. This is mainly useful for people who get really annoyed that at their iCloud, because they take a photo with their phone for vacation, they take hundreds of photos, and your device is yelling at you all the time saying, buy more space, buy more space. If you have Amazon Prime, you just point your photos to that, and then that issue goes away. Also, if you're a photographer, it's a pretty attractive cost to just have unlimited photos. And these are unlimited full resolution, no compression photo backups. Also with Amazon Prime, you get 5 gigabytes of other files, but that's not incredibly notable because most of these other options will give you between 5 and 20 gigabytes for free. So are there any questions, or does anyone want any information about what differentiates these options?
I have a question. We have a couple questions here. Go ahead, Susie.
I have currently iCloud because I have all Apple devices and computer, but I'm interested in the Amazon Prime unlimited photos. So can you have 2 of these services?
Yeah, you can have as many as you want. For example, on my iPhone, on my work iPhone, I guess the better example is my wife. My wife has an iPhone and she uses both iCloud and Amazon Prime. And all you do is you install Amazon Prime, the app from the App Store, and you basically say to Google, to your iPhone, you say, hey, I want my photos to be stored in Amazon Prime. And then whenever you take a photo, it will go into Amazon Prime and get uploaded.
Thank you.
I have a question on the chat, and the question is, would you have access to Amazon Photos if you did not continue membership to Amazon Prime? And that's a really good question. The answer is no, after a certain amount of time. They'll generally give you about 30 days to get all of your information. And if you choose to use Amazon Photos and you don't have Amazon Prime, or you just want photo storage, you are able to buy space for just your photos using Amazon Photos. I believe it's $20 a year for 200 gigabytes, which is a significant number of photos. That's about 120,000 photos.
So we have another question in the classroom.
Hey, Tim, this is Kath. On sync, you said you couldn't access your files. Is that at all?
Yeah, so basically, my eyes are really horrible, but if you're able to see to the right of all of these little options, some of them will have files on demand, or some of them will say no files on demand. What that means is basically, if someone has files on demand, if a cloud service provides files on demand, you can have a folder that you're looking at, and you can have 5 files in it. And you can have 2 of those files on your computer and 3 of those files cloud only, but you can still see the files. With no files on demand, whatever files are on your computer are the only ones that you're able to view, because those are the only ones on your computer. And you can also have additional files that are only available online. So it's just, I generally don't recommend no files on demand systems, just because it gets confusing.
Would no files on demand be good if you were just archiving things that you didn't really need to access very often?
Yeah, if you just want to back something up and not see it all the time, then files on demand would work perfectly fine.
Yeah. One more question.
With the Pcloud lifetime storage, that includes photos and videos.
Yep, that includes basically anything you want. A lot of these services will have maximum file sizes. Those maximum file sizes start at 250 gigabytes. So generally, it's not something someone needs to worry about, but just throwing that out there.
Another question for you. Amazon Prime allows you unlimited photos at high resolution. Do any of these other cloud storage, do they reduce the quality of the photo?
A lot of them will ask if you want to reduce the quality of the photos. For example, Google Drive by default will reduce the quality of your photos. It will reduce, basically the file size will go from like 16 megabytes per photo down to 1. This loss in quality is not something normal people should be worried about. If you are taking photos of a vacation and you are viewing that photo on a computer screen or a phone and you want to post it to social media, you cannot tell the difference. The only time when you can really tell the difference is when you want to make these things into like a 3-foot by 5-foot portrait or painting on your wall, get them printed out, put them on their wall kind of thing. Then you can start to see some issues. But the compression of the photos really isn't that bad. However, you don't want your photos compressed if you want to do things like edit them or blow them up to a large size.
And then one other question. You were talking about how iCloud doesn't play nicely with Windows computers. How does OneDrive play with Apple computers?
Beautifully.
Okay. Great. Does anybody? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the one Microsoft kind of wants everyone to use its products. Apple kind of doesn't care about people who don't use Apple products. That's a rather bland statement, but they basically made it so that it will work, but it's just not a fantastic experience for me whenever I used iCloud on my Windows computer. It's very bare bones.
Anybody, any other questions before we move on?
How does iCloud interface with like Google Docs? So I have iCloud right now, and I have the 2 TB, whatever that means. And I need to have access to Google Docs. I'm just wondering, and I want to put a bunch of stuff into Google Docs. but I'm wondering if maybe I should just put that into the iCloud already, but we're just saying with Microsoft, is Google Docs Microsoft, or how does Google Docs work with iCloud, and could I import some of that into iCloud or not so much?
Yeah, you can import all of that into iCloud. The main draw of Google Docs, when using Google Drive, is that you can edit them online using Google's built-in document editor. The negative that you would experience is if you were to open a Google Doc on your iCloud. So I'm assuming you're going to be opening it on your computer, is then it will change the file type to pages and then edit that way. But you can store the document just fine in iCloud. You're just going to run into some annoyance whenever you go to edit that document.
It'll automatically put it into pages. Okay, I don't like that.
Yep.
One last question. Is it too sneaky and complicated to use all of these various options and put 15 gigabytes of something in Google Drive and 2 gigabytes of something in Dropbox?
I mean, that's what I do for testing, partially because I'm cheap, but partially because for testing, I don't need a massive amount of data. You will run into an incredibly annoying problem where you will have something on Google Drive and you're currently using OneDrive and you can't find that file and you kind of go crazy. So it's painful in that respect because you're never 100% sure where a file is. And also if you edit that file in OneDrive, then the same file you have in Google Drive is not edited. So you may be looking at the wrong file in the future because you just forgot that you edited it on one of these options and then a different option has the same file, but a different version.
That makes sense.
So I highly recommend kind of picking one or two and sticking to it. So for example, Google Drive, you may want it for its ability to edit files online. And then you may have Amazon Drive or Amazon Prime because you like its unlimited photo storage. So if you're going to have multiple ones of these, I would highly recommend splitting them into separate categories of files just to make your life easier.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, could you say again what the process is for transferring iCloud photos from an iPhone to Amazon Prime?
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways. One way is, of course, you get your Apple computer. You open up your photos on your computer and you download the Amazon Drive app, or you just use the web browser and you take all of those photos from your Apple Photos and you physically move them or upload them to Amazon Photos. The other option, if your phone is big enough, has enough storage, or if your photo collection isn't that large, is you can just go on your phone, download Amazon Photos, and say, hey, you're my new photo storage, and it will automatically just suck everything in.
Seems an appropriate verb for Amazon.
Yeah, it will copy everything over.
Sorry.
Dirty mind, Mary.
Evil Amazon, what can I say? We can edit that out, don't worry.
Oh yeah. All right, the next slide is on backup. So if all of you thought you were getting a backup solution that's in the cloud whenever you are using cloud storage, you are half right. So one of the negatives with cloud storage in terms of backup is cloud storage will basically allow you to back up certain folders. So if you set your cloud storage to back up, generally it will have a folder on your computer, and any files you put in that folder will be backed up to the cloud, but anything not in that folder is not backed up. So for example, if you're like me and you're incredibly lazy and stupid, one thing you might do is you might keep a lot of things in your downloads folder. So you may get some tax documents, you'll download them, they'll be in your downloads folder, you'll do your taxes and you'll forget about it. However, none of my cloud storage solutions are set to back up my downloads folder. So if that downloads folder gets deleted, it's not backed up anywhere. What backup does is it will back up your entire computer. So you don't need to care, you don't need to think, you don't need to try and remember which folders you have being backed up or set to being backed up from your cloud storage solution. Everything is backed up. And the best one for that I've found and used is Backblaze. It is absolutely unlimited file size. It's unlimited just size in general. And it's $70 for one computer per year. So if you basically don't want to or don't think that cloud storage, you'll utilize the ability to view your files online, you just want something that will keep all of your documents backed up and safe, then Backblaze is kind of a good solution for that. It's $70 per computer per year. And whenever your computer dies, or if your computer dies, you basically say, hey, I need all of my data back. And you can get it in one of two ways. You can either download it again whenever you get a new computer, or they will physically ship out a hard drive where you can then plug that in and get all of your data back. A funny little story that no one but me may find funny. The fastest way to move data from place to place isn't cloud storage. It's actually via UPS. So Amazon, whenever they're setting up a new data center, what they'll do is they will take all of that data, put it on physical hard drives, give it to UPS, and UPS will bring it across the country, and then they'll plug the drives in, and then they'll get the data back. I think it's a fun little story.
It's a great story. We have a question in the classroom.
I guess I'm not really clear about what the difference is of a backup versus having everything on, say, iCloud, because I thought if it was on iCloud, then it was kind of automatically backed up.
It is. So if it's on iCloud, it's backed up. Let's see if I can
Why would you
hide.
want to have anything different? If you already are storing it in the cloud, why would you want to back it up in addition to that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So for example, I'm using a Windows computer at the moment. This is my file explorer. On the left-hand side, you can see the two cloud storage solutions I have. If I click in Dropbox, here are all of the things that are backed up on Dropbox. And the only things on my computer that are backed up to Dropbox are here. Anything that's on my desktop, anything that's in my pictures folder, anything that's in my documents folder, anything that's in my downloads folder, none of that is being backed up. So what a backup service like Backblaze does is it will back up everything on the computer no matter where it is. Cloud storage will back things up based on what folder you have it set to.
Okay.
So you could, if you wanted to spend the money for the storage space, use cloud storage and have everything backed up. I mean, you could choose the downloaded files. You could choose the desktop. Am I right? Or
For some of them.
for some of them?
Some of them will only allow you to use their folder.
Okay,
Some of them will allow you to, so like Google and OneDrive, those are the two that I know will allow you to select various folders on your computer
okay.
to back up. But basically Dropbox, only this stuff is saved, nothing else.
Mary?
Yeah, we have a question.
So how actually do you, how do you get to your iCloud? I have it that just automatically with my email, but how do I get to a place where I can actually make those choices like you're describing?
You'll essentially right click on the option on the, so if you're using a Mac computer, it'll be at the top of your screen. It'll be the little cloud icon. You'll right click on it, and under settings or preferences, something like that, it will allow you to specify locations.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So the next question that no one asked, but I'll answer, is security. Is it safe? That's kind of where the zero knowledge options come in. Those are the safer alternatives. The only problem with zero knowledge is if you lose your password, your data is gone because the cloud storage provider doesn't have it or doesn't have access to the unencrypted files. The Cloud Act happened, I believe, in like 2016, 2018. And basically what that means is any cloud storage solution based in the US, so anything that has a data center in the US, has access to all of your files, and they will access, disclose, and preserve personal data, including your content. But when we have a good faith belief that doing so is necessary, they will comply with applicable law or respond to valid legal process, including law enforcement or other government agencies. What that means is your data is yours, but any of these cloud storage things that are based in the US, if asked, they will give that data to any government agency that requests it. Again, this isn't something you should worry about in terms of if you're a criminal or not. This is just kind of my personal line in the sand where I just don't like that my data is easily given away. So yeah, if you're worried about that, you can use a zero knowledge backup solution. But otherwise, just be aware that your data can be asked for and it will be given. So if you store things like tax information, if you store pictures of your social security card, if you store any of that stuff, it's not incredibly far-fetched for someone else to be able to access that by requesting the information. On the other side of that, if any cloud storage has a server in China, the Chinese government has a similar, more open-ended Cloud Act where they're able to access all of that data anytime they want.
I have a question.
Yeah, we have a
Yep.
question.
How does that work with like HIPAA compliant laws? If there's, I guess I'm just wondering about if there's protected information, you know, about individuals that I'm responsible for protecting.
Yeah, and that's a very valid question. The only cloud storage solution that wasn't zero knowledge that we could get to basically sign our HIPAA compliant thing was OneDrive.
Okay.
They were the only ones that Microsoft was the only company that was willing to basically say, yes, we will be HIPAA compliant for your data.
Thanks.
That being said, I think Apple also is pretty hardcore against giving away your data like that. But I don't think they officially have a stance on it. So this is just a general slide to give you an idea of how much storage you need. So basically the end result is if you are backing up things, backing up documents like Word files or Excel files, you really don't have to worry about it. It's 10,000 files roughly per gigabyte, which means that any of these solutions, just even the free models, will give you enough space. The real reason why cloud storage, why you would need to pay for those higher end tiers, is because of pictures and videos. Pictures, you get about 600 per gigabyte if the picture is compressed, and video files, if it's 1080p, so if it's HD, you'll get about 1.5 gigabytes of video per hour. And you can use that to kind of determine how much space you think you might need. So the general thing I think about is if you have 100,000 photos, then you would need 200 gigabytes of space. So if you're under 100,000 photos, you will need less than 200 gigabytes. So you may not need that 2 terabyte tier of pricing.
How many gigabytes are in a terabyte? Or
1,000. They don't. Yeah, it's not like freedom units. So it's like the metric system where 1,000 is the next tier up. So 1,000 megabytes per gigabyte, 1,000 gigabytes per terabyte. And if you remember seeing the TB written by stuff, that's terabyte.
Tim,
Yep.
this is Kath. I have about 60% of my photo storage on my phone since November. It used.
Okay.
So it seems to me like it's getting used awfully fast because I can't download those things to my external hard drive.
Yeah. It's definitely something that people run into, where you may look at this and you may hear what I said about under 100,000 photos, less than 200 gigabytes, but that will fill up incredibly fast if you are continually taking photos. Apple does offer, if you're using an iPhone, and Google offers less than the jump to the 2 terabyte option. So Google Drive has a 100 gigabyte option for $1.99 a month, and Icloud has a 50 gigabyte option for 99 cents a month. And those are generally enough to get you over the hump with regards to photo storage.
Do you run into any problems if you get right up to your limits of storage?
No, but that's a really good question. So I think one of the places that question's coming from is if you are on a computer and your computer gets 80% full, your computer will start to slow down. Your computer uses excess hard drive space as what's called swap space. And once it has less of that available, it will start to slow down. Cloud storage does not have that limitation. It will perform the exact same if you're using 1% all the way up to 99%.
Okay.
It will start to yell at you once you get around 80% though. It'll say, hey, you should probably buy more.
Tim, if you use Amazon Prime for photos, does Prime organized in the same way that the photos does, like by year and person, and there's some automatic organization on your iPhone.
Yeah, it does do that organization, especially on a month and year level. From my usage, Amazon Prime is not nearly as good as Google is at doing that, the facial recognition. The other thing I really like about Google over Amazon Prime, I realize you were talking about iCloud, but the thing I really like about Google over Amazon Prime is I'm able to search for things like Aruba, or I'm able to search for California, and then any photo that was taken in those locations will show up. You can also do things. We had a Google Drive or a Google Photos class, and one of the things I like doing there is I just have a folder full of random animal pictures, and you can do things like dog, and it will pick up dogs. And then you can search for tigers, and it will find all the tigers. You can search for trees, or you can search for mountain, and it will find all the photos with those things in it. Amazon Prime doesn't really do that. What Amazon Prime's good at is just storing, not really the search functionality.
Does iCloud do that?
It does that to a lesser extent. iCloud's pretty good at facial recognition, determining who the people in the photos are, but it isn't that good with non-people objects.
And besides, Google Drive gives you those little albums of photos taken the same week 5 years ago.
Yeah, Amazon will bother you with those, or if you like those things, Amazon will make you happy with reminding you what vacation you were on 5 years ago today, as you sit alone in your house staring at out the window at the lawn you have yet to mow. Yeah.
Can we see a picture outside your window? I'm sure is it on?
Well, I actually did mow the lawn yesterday.
Okay, good.
Prove it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the main takeaway I'd like to give for cloud storage is you really can't go wrong. There are ones that are better for certain uses, so I'll just go over that. If you are primarily Apple-based, iCloud is great. If you want something that allows you to edit documents online and allows you to kind of have that easy search for all of your photos, I highly recommend Google Drive. If you want to have a solid cloud storage solution for pretty much any operating system, with the addition of having access to Microsoft Office, then OneDrive is kind of a no-brainer if you want things like Word.
Mhm.
And then if you want to have a zero knowledge setup, then the two I've used are Pcloud and Mega, and I prefer Mega a little bit. But any of these will work. I highly recommend you just try out the free versions of like 1 or 2 and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, you can transition to something else. As always, if you have any questions after the class, feel free to email Mary, and she'll get in touch with me, and then we can answer that, or we will update the slides with that information. The other thing you can do is always stop by on Wednesdays at 12, and then that's for the tech drop-in time, where I'll sit down with you and go over whatever question or issue you have. And then in addition, traditionally we've run this class, I think 2 or 3 times. After the class, we'll ask if anyone wants a specific like deep dive into a given one of these given solutions, and then we can do that as well. I think in the past we've done one on Google Drive, one on Dropbox, one on iCloud and one on OneDrive.
Yeah.
So we're really not that picky. I use all of them, so I'm willing to talk about any of them at length, probably far longer than anyone's willing to listen.
Now, you've given us a lot of really good information, Tim. I really appreciate it. Does anybody have any last questions for Tim?
I just have a quick question, but it might not pertain to anyone else. My photos on my iPhone are automatically backed up onto the cloud, and I think I'm having a problem because some of them are automatically being, I think, taken up on my computer. Somehow, I don't even know, but it seems like my storage on my computer, on my Mac, is like disappearing. And I'm wondering if my photos are, and I just am not that savvy. If my photos are somehow getting on my computer as well, or certain ones on the cloud and certain ones on my computer, and I'm wondering how I can figure that out. So that
Yeah, so
clog up my space.
that's a common issue with cloud storage, especially if you have it linked between your phone, the cloud, and your computer.
Yeah,
Because, for example, on your computer in iCloud, you probably have photos selected. You probably have photos selected on your phone as well. That means any photo that is in your photos folder on your computer or in your gallery on your iPhone will be synced. And it will show up in both places. So you can do one of two things. One, you can turn off sync on your computer, which is kind of annoying because then you don't get access to your photos on your computer. Or you can kind of throw caution to the wind and trust the Apple magic sauce, and just hope that they'll pull the photos you haven't looked at in a long time off of your computer to save storage space.
okay, but if I have it on my phone, it should be fine with saving all of those photos if I unclick it on the computer for photos synced, or
Yep, it will stop syncing the photos to your computer. It won't delete them from your computer. There may be an option whenever you deselect photos, there may be an option that pops up that says, do you want to remove photos from this computer? And you can choose to select that or not select that.
okay.
So, but Tim, could one on an Apple computer go into iCloud and see photos there that aren't being stored on the computer?
They could. You can always go to icloud.com, sign in, and then you can see all of your documents, all of your photos, all of your notes, all of your calendar entries that are synced to iCloud. And that's a really good point. So if you ever want to delete something from cloud storage, my 100% foolproof way, and it's the way I do it, is I will actually go to a web browser, log into my whatever cloud storage service, and delete it from there. Occasionally what can happen, and you'll see reports of this online, but occasionally what can happen is you can delete something from your computer, and then your phone will say, hey, I have this great photo that the computer doesn't have, and then it will resync it. And that can occur if you have multiple devices being synced. It shouldn't, and it generally doesn't, but it can. And when it does, it can be incredibly frustrating.
All right, well, you've given us a lot to think about. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
So everyone, I'm going to turn off the recording, but please feel free to follow up with me if you have particular questions. I will also send these slides as well as the recording out to everyone who registered, and ask you if there's one cloud storage that you would like to go into a deeper dive in. And that might be fun. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.